What's going on, workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And today we're talking about probably, hopefully, a subject that everybody can be excited about mid-core content. It's kind of like an addendum to our endgame conversation for 6.0, but this
Yep.
is going to focus in on kind of what we feel is probably the meat of the community and not the upper, I say upper echelon, like the 1% of the ultimate raiders. Chris, like, what would you like to see regarding like a mid-core update to this game overall? I think there's this video could be hours long, so if we need to,
Yeah.
we'll follow this up with additional posts. Go ahead.
I think that the big gap for me is that for a player that's playing the game normal, right? They're clearing their MSQ first.
Yeah.
They're getting into going and dipping their toe into getting their tombstone gear each week, and they're trying some other jobs. Maybe they touch a little bit of PvP. They're dabbling in things. There's all this content locked between extreme and savage, and maybe they never want to play the game in something that takes that long or requires that level of stress. Maybe they do, but regardless of that, the jump between them is massive, and your choice is to do something that is mechanically very repetitive and allows for a very, very low bar to clear. As Brian and I, as we've started to kind of explore parsing and things like that, as kind of an answer to people saying like, do you guys even know what you're doing? It's like, well, let's go measure, let's go find out. As we look into that, like normal content, especially if you're tanking or healing, requires very little DPS to go out, and the content will get cleared by the party. Is it optimal? No.
Right.
Will the Eden fights take 12 minutes? Absolutely. Is it incredibly frustrating for everybody else if they get in a party and they're trying really hard and 6 of the people in there are not? Sure. But there isn't any content set to, from my mind, what midcore is most lacking is an opportunity to invite and to teach and to explore something above normal. Like I was running my Dark Knight story today because I've got all my tanks are all to cap.
Congrats.
Hooray! The
Hooray.
last of them made it to cap, and I got the last of my job quests done today. And so I did all my job quests. So all of my job quests, role quests, that's all done for tanks. What if I want to run that again harder? Why is there not a savage job quest? Something that would require that I actually play the job well in a place where I'm not frustrating other people. I'm not dragging my bad habits through, in a place where afterwards there could be a feedback mechanism that says like, hey, you're supposed to use this ability 6 times during a 6-minute fight on average, and you used it 1.
Something like the Blue Mage Carnival that they have. Like, it's like, hey, okay, this is your job. Like, and we're going to create
We got
fights.
Hall the Novice, Hall the Expert. Give me a Hall the Expert.
That would be really fascinating to see that kind of be that additional piece of that. One of the things I'm
totally optional.
One of the things I've seen a lot, a theme in the comments, is a lot of people not either being aware of the Hall of the Novice, and a lot of people not being aware that a lot of people aren't aware of the Hall of the Novice. Like,
yes.
So, it's either
those who know.
Yeah, and those who know. And so I love your idea essentially for that Hall of the Expert. But it would be that solo. I mean, you could have NPCs and trusts depending on your role.
Sure.
It's like, but building those challenges and something that you could keep, just challenging yourself and then having unique rewards tied behind that related to your job, right? I think obviously any kind of content is you want to marry that conversation with rewards. Rewards act as a
cosmetic weapons, something.
Yeah, exactly. Something to unlock. What would you think about? And I've seen this in the comments in some of the videos, like pet battles. We've got our minions. And they have stats of part of our minion. Would that be something interesting as a piece of kind of mid-core content?
Yeah, I think it opens up just like limited jobs. It opens up a battle system that's not the battle system. So for people that have gotten everything they wanted out of the battle system, right? Maybe they only like one role. Maybe they've really mastered everything. Maybe they're in savage content. Maybe they're not. But their goal within the standard battle system is complete. Whatever level they want to make it to, they've decided that's far enough. I need to go. I either can or I have no desire. I can't or I have no desire to go further. That's fine. Giving them a secondary system. So deep dungeons do it. The relic systems do it. Limited jobs are a chance to explore it. PvP is a chance to explore it. I think pet battles is another way to say, like, here's yet another battle system where you have to learn the rules and you have to execute to a varying degree, and there's ways to progress through it, get more gear, get more pets unlocked, level them up or whatever. There's one more set of bars to fill. That way, if some of those other ones you're like, yeah, I know those are there, but I hate limited jobs, I hate PvP,
Right.
I hate, fine. Like pet battles would be yet another that we could go dump time and energy into, that would allow a progression. It would allow a hunt type aspect, right? So very Centurio seal driven, where like there would be a gathering all of the pets for the purpose of battling, but then there could also be a how well do you know your pet battles? Very triple triad of it, right? How well can you play within the mini game that it is? So it can almost piggyback off the Golden Saucer.
I think it'd also be that of a mini game out in the open world itself. And I think that's one of the things that I if anybody's new here to the channel, like I really enjoy open world content. I enjoy when I step into an MMO to experience that of like whether it's a stranger and we're just passing each other by, or we're all like engaged and heavily just like doing something together. And that's kind of when like pet battles and all of these little things I think are important. And I don't want to rehash our kind of our parsing video too much, but one of the things that I would love to see is that some ways that I can in-game set more personalized challenges. And this doesn't necessarily have to be like solely around damage. It would just be that, hey, did you know that you gathered 500 nodes of wood last month? And then this month you gathered 600, and where all of a sudden I look at this and I go, like, can I do 700? Like, what was I doing? Just in a way that it's not required. One of the things I think I hesitate saying that based off of the fact that everybody just came off of the 5.41 Ishgard Restoration Nightmare Sprint. Congratulations, Chili, for getting in the top 12 fishers.
I know a few people in stream got their title for the first time. Yeah, very exciting.
So for all those who like just poured themselves into that, I don't want to like give you PTSD by saying like here's these other like integrated systems, because at some point you're like somebody could theoretically push themselves to some kind of insane max where there's like, dude, just it's cool. Like obviously at some point the challenge is the challenge for itself. It's a little bit of bragging rights, if you will, so to speak, of like, hey, I've made this and this is what I did, and check it out. Like, can you believe I did this crazy thing? But a way that all the content that exists is able to be, I don't know, leveled up in a way, because you and I have talked about
a deeper achievement system could manage some of this. Right now, the achievement system is you did something once, can you do it 100 times? You did it 100 times, can you do it 1,000? You did it 1,000, can you do it 5,000? You did it 5,000. There's nothing after that. Yeah. And so like it's A, it's very flat, and B, it dies. Right. It has a finite number. That finite number might be insane. It might be run 55 billion dungeons, and you're like, that's impossible. But what happens is somebody hits it, and when they hit it, there isn't anything after that. And so I think a deeper achievement system could manage some of what you're asking for, something that encourages. And right now when you log in, it says like achievements you're close to. That's a thing you can track. Something that encourages you, like, maybe you get an extra reroll on your Wondrous Tales for finishing an achievement every week. So you're like trying to, I don't know, just something to kind of encourage you to continue diving deeper and wider in the game. Because what happens is we do one form of content until we either can or don't desire to level it anymore. And then we run out of other stuff to do. And that's where midcore can really step in, right? Somebody who has made it to cap, they have done, they have cleared all their Eden raids for the number of weeks that they want to clear it. But then there isn't anything. And then everybody's like, well, go do Savage, go do Ultimate. It's like the jump can't be from something that requires that I have most of my abilities on the bar and I use them sometimes and I don't stand in bad or get carried, to you have to go sit in here and grind 12 hours with complete strangers, or find a group of organized strangers to meet at a set time to do this extremely highly tuned content. Savage being extreme Savage, then Ultimate being the hardest. There has to be things in between that gap. There's a big section there between I could literally facepalm my way through alliance raids, and then now I'm supposed to be in Savage.
Right, and that's kind of the core aspect of where I think when you look at the future of this game and the frustration that I see expressed in the comics, the comment section on the forums and even on Reddit, where it's essentially that fix endgame, fix PvP, fix like X, and that essentially is going to create a better foundation, right? We've seen this. Like the reason why this video I think is important, and I'm going to talk about my idea here briefly here in a second, but the reason why I feel it's important is that even the raid scene is built off of that mid-core, right? If you have mid-core that can then say, yes, I want to challenge the harder thing, but it feels like a lot of people, and in the age of COVID, with so many delays, like there hasn't been the steady flow of content that has been expected. It's now ramping itself back up, but it does show that like there's something like that gap is pretty big. That gap requires like an intense amount, and that the current mid-core, like the current raid, doesn't actually require that. Like it's going from like you were parsing yourself, I was parsing myself. It's like, oh, here you are at this tier, and then you could push yourself even higher, and yes, you have a better experience, but you would never have, like, if you didn't have that personal goal to be better, like the game doesn't require it of you until you hit that wall. And I think right now there's just a big gap of content, especially content drought in that. And so I would think something along the lines of like we've talked about it before, like a Paragon system, in which that it's like, while it's not increasing your power, it just gives you more things that you're constantly working on to fill in the bars. I definitely agree with you on the concept of PvP. However, PvP in and of itself as a topic within 14's community, I think it's so malnourished that when you talk about it, a lot of people just aren't generally interested in it, because anybody who is really hungry for PvP is like, yeah, I do that here maybe, but I go get it elsewhere.
I go play another game.
Right. And it's like they would have to do a big investment, a big overhaul, which
over a long period of time.
Right.
Because at this point it's devolved into a Discord community that, my understanding of it is that it's relatively fractured in within itself. You have 1% of the population, and then you go try to dive in, and even that has factions within it. It's like, oh, I don't play with that group. It's like, how can you afford to pass on anybody when there's only 12 of you doing it? There's just seasons where PvP is just so forgotten in 14, and it's a good system. Like, I like Frontlines. They're fun. I just don't want to wait 120 minutes for a match.
Well, and the fact that they're also so just regulated, if we like, and this isn't a PvP like video, because I know that when we bring up PvP, a lot of people are like, all right, that's it, I'm out. But the fact that it's also regulated, you can't see people doing it. There isn't some kind of supporting system around it that you want to get involved in to increase, like, just for like armor and gear or bragging rights. But it's like, imagine if Frontlines was taking part in a zone, obviously like not open world PvP, so nobody thinks that I'm advocating for that, but imagine saying, instead of in this instance, this is what's going on, hey guys, we're fighting over the Ruby Sea right now, and how insane would that be to kind of have that play out where people could watch. Once the match started, it's set for those people who are there, but other people could watch and cheer it on, and you could have commentating and spectating. You could end up making even pieces of content around that aspect in and of itself, and it became more of an event, more interesting into the open world itself. You look like you have a thought.
Yeah, I think, it's very quick for us to, in this conversation, call for something to be created that would require a huge amount of effort and resources.
Oh yeah.
Just spin this up for me, Square.
Please.
Just go do it. And I think, what I'm hearing from you, that's something that's more actionable, that doesn't require a complete rebuild of a system or a complete restructure of how they engage, is that for a game that for the casual player is if the average MMO is 50% leveling, 50% in game, for the casual player or somebody who is able to clear savages within the first 2 weeks of them coming out, this game can very quickly feel like it's 75% leveling. It's 75% getting a class to cap and then keeping that class best in slotted, or whatever your definition of best in slot is. Like, if you only clear up to tomestones, then that's your best in slot. Even though there is gear beyond that, it's not gear that you run content that's going to drop it.
Right.
And so I think what I'm hearing from you is you want that leveling portion to be able to extend on to make up for when the second portion is very finite, for when there's gaps in patches, or when there's patches that focus on a side of content you're not engaging in. Point ones this expansion have really meant Ishgard, and point fives have really meant Relic. That's been kind of the big drive. And so if one of those doesn't interest you, there's a whole section of a patch cycle that's just a dead time window. And it's a really dead time window when all the people that you play with might actually go do that content. And you're like, yeah, my whole free company is freaking in Boja. Yeah. You're like, well, go join them. Yeah. No. Okay, well then what do you do? And so I think what I'm hearing from there that's really actionable is to kind of keep that leveling alive, to keep some form of just making, and I think New Game Plus was a beginning step of that, giving the ability to replay content. I think inviting people into more types of content is something that the game could get better at without having to do complete system overhauls.
Yeah.
Um,
So
that's what I'm hearing from you.
it's part that too, because you are hearing that. It then gets married into this little bit of a thing that's annoying me currently in the game, and it is the weekly tome cap. And the weekly tome cap is a gate that is a time gate for players so that you farm up so many tomes per week.
It's a healthy part of the game.
It can be healthy. I think essentially what would be interesting is a way in which that I as a player can invest time to increase that cap. Right now, when I'm actively playing, I hit that cap and it's like, well, I gotta wait till Tuesday before I can go hit that cap. And that also is married with the concept. There's some other driving force of player personalized goals in that regards. It's not just 100% a game that's focused in on increasing my gear score, but it would be nice to find a way in the game itself through my investment in time, whether that was Paragon level after Paragon level. And I'm not saying like it's just you're killing the cap. Also, whenever the tome changes, that could be a natural time to go and invest in increasing that specific tome's cap. But we're still at 2,000 on poems, and we're at 450 a week on that. It would be neat for me to be like, yeah, I grinded out another 10 levels, and now I can actually have 460 tomes as a part of my weekly cap.
Yeah. So the reason that doesn't exist, the reason that games don't do that is because you have people that play this game 80 hours a week. Right. And you have people that play this game 3 hours a week. Mm-hmm. And the 3-hour people can feel overwhelmed when the 80 hours get to flex on them and get to go, well, you just should have done it. You just should have put 60 hours in. Like, you didn't. That's your fault.
Some people suck.
Get something you don't. And it sucks to be the guy that plays, I play optimally. I play as much as I can. My kids have an activity that their mom takes them to on Tuesday nights. And then on Friday nights after they go to bed, I stay up and I play with my friends and we try to clear the raid. And that during that time, I try to cap out my tomes and I try to stay on top of the gear grind. And I'm able to stay relatively caught up because the cap is 450. Yeah, well, my cap's 490. Okay, well, how'd you get it to 490? Oh, I put in 40 hours. Okay, well, I guess I'll just fall behind then. So like the cap is there to protect it's there to manually. What you can do, however, is you can say, what if the cap shifts? What if it's 450 within any 7-day window? So it's not so bound to Tuesday. So you can kind of work ahead. And so you can start to make that a little more of so in a 28-day window, it still works out to the same fixed, whatever that is, 1,800 tomes, but that you can kind of get there differently so that people whose lives fall off 1 week.
Yeah, I think I could see your point there.
That
actually
could
move
away from the daily and weekly reset.
Right, but it's and then in that regards, all of a sudden you're then taking advantage of other systems and content within the game, whether you choose to engage with them there or not. Like I view that as a holistic approach. It's like, cool, like, okay, you did that, you can go run this, and this can help offset that. But overall, like, then again, instead of looking at it week to week, if you're over the course of the month, yeah, you're still kind of sitting where you are in that regards. It'd be interesting to see, because like, I just want to find a way that the more I can invest kind of into that mid-core section of content, like, can end up having benefits that don't have to be associated with power. And we've talked about this numerous times, and it's something that I think could be very healthy. Yes, somebody could play more of the mid-core than you. Cool. They can have cheaper teleports. They can do these other things. I wouldn't.
If that's purchasable with Poetics, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
because Poetics are not capped.
Right, and then
as long as the most expensive upgrade is 2,000 or less, the existing Poetic system can already handle it.
Would you be amicable, like, instead of saying the weekly high tome, that other tomes could be uncapped, like Poetics? Like, I could invest to where I can hold a maximum of 3,000 Poetics? Okay,
that could be something within Poetics, right? That could be a 1,500 Poetic upgrade to push it from 2,000 to 2,500, and then there could be a mount for 2,500. And so a new player sees it at 2,000 and goes, there's a mount for 2,500, I can't even hold 2,500. And it's like, well, you're going to have to upgrade. But that's a totally cosmetic thing. That's very different than uncapping or adjusting the cap of the 450.
Okay, I'll accept
that. The 450 is set to progression year, and it is it's meant to pace that out.
So on that note, so like when we're talking about like that idea then, and then marrying that with what I was talking about, okay, cut the weekly 450 cap idea, like keep that sacred, keep that as a part of that rotation. But then we have all of this other content that it'd be interesting to have that invested. Yeah, imagine if there was like a 10,000 poetic, item or mount or things like that that you can just sit here and if you want it, you can go after it and you can invest in it, and then there's there was a horizontal investment. All of a sudden, like, man, I got all these tomes, and they could kind of play around with that system, and they wouldn't have to do it so quickly. Some of the times, like when I'm like, oh man, I'm capped, I have nothing that I need from Poetics. Okay, cool. Then I guess I'll just go buy some items, but it'd be neat to see. I don't know. I think that would be something valuable.
Bicolor Gemstones was them exploring that concept, right? What happens if we set a currency to something that's purely cosmetic that people get to kind of level up and do, and then it dies with the expansion?
Yeah.
The question is, can we put it in a system without spinning up one more tab in the currency tab? Can we put it within something that we're already using or letting die, right? Can we make it to where, like, now leaves drop bicolor gemstones? So that my leave allowance isn't sitting at 100 all the time, right? Can we start to reinvest within, rather than spin up new systems, rather than rebuild things? Can we better breathe life into things that already exist that maybe people haven't ever done? There are people that have never engaged in a single hunt, not even the basic. I came across a guy with a weird marking and I killed him. They've never gotten Kupo nuts or whatever they're called. They've never gotten a bicolor gemstone in their life. Okay, well, can we get people to go back and engage in these systems?
I forgot so much about the leave system because it used to have battle implications, and now it's just like
battle leaves.
Crafter turn in. And oh man, this kind of, I think obviously this video's well past its time. I think we're gonna need to talk about what battle league should battle leaves make a return, and what would we want to see for that, because I think it's something. It was always open world content, so we'll do that in another video. So I'll force Chris into that conversation. Chris, you got any final thoughts before we wrap up this video?
No. Thanks to everybody continuing to hang out on stream. Been a blast.
Absolutely. So guys, for Work Again, my name's Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks for watching. We hope you see you soon. Hope to see for sure. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon.
Take care.
I just completely butchered that ending. Bye, everybody.